Howdy do, fellow kids.
What?
Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a guide for Summer Sei Shounagon. Sei is a 4-star berserker introduced in Chaldea's Summer Adventure. She's on the same banner as Kama and Canis, so if you're going down that road, you may as well know what you're in for. Sei's first skill is a 3-turn attack and crit damage buff with a 20% battery, all personal buffs. Now it's come up a few times, but 30 and 50 are the magic numbers for battery skills. 20% is mostly relevant if you're using K-Scope or you're an art servant, and Sei doesn't fit into either of those categories, so that's unfortunate. So unlike a lot of battery skills, you should use this just to get your offensive buffs online. If that happens to line up in a way that actually lets you exploit the battery, so be it. But normally I wouldn't recommend sitting on it. Next up we have a 2-hit Lingering Evade, but it also comes with a pair of 1-turn buffs to crit damage and star absorption. Sei's survival will often hinge on this skill, so it's a bit of a bummer that you want to pop it right away for that. But if you don't get nice cards on your first turn, or you want to split your burst over multiple turns, then you'll have to risk leaving Sei on the field exposed. Remember that a fairly common breakmar mechanic is for your enemy to instantly get their noble Phantasm. Unlike Atalanta Altar, Sei has no way of preventing that from happening, so consider running a Mystic Code with extra protection. We actually get a pretty good one this October. It's called Halloween Royalty and features a single turn, 2-hit invuln. As an added bonus, it has a Buster/NP damage combo and a limited cleanse that mostly acts as a stun break, removing debuffs that, one way or the other, prevent you from using your cards or skills. The Buster buff might seem a little suspect, but Sei actually has a triple Buster deck. Wait, couldn't they given that to Canis? Sei's last regular skill is a pretty weird one. Targeted 3k heal, 3 turns of burn immunity, and 25 stars on demand. That stardom is why you're able to use Sei's absorption buff on turn 1, provided you aren't whiffing that extra damage into a broken bar. The heal doesn't really matter unless you want to top off another frontliner before Sei bites it. Berserkers are glass cannons by their very nature, and outside of her evade, Sei isn't particularly resilient. So don't count on that heal to make the difference between life and death. Now the burn immunity is pretty interesting. Niche, but interesting. Once in a while you get damage over time spammers as bosses, and even if Sei herself isn't geared for longer encounters, this skill being targetable means you can just put it on a more specialized carry to do the heavy lifting. Combined with a craft essence like Outrage, you can ensure Sei makes a speedy exit. But speaking of specialized attackers, let's take a look at Sei's Noble Phantasm. This is a single target quick attack with 3 preemptive special buffs. The static effect has anti-lawful alignment and anti-shadow servant properties. The latter is very rarely relevant, which is a problem that the original Sei has as well. If memory serves, you mostly encounter them in regular story free quests, and they don't have the health values that would justify running a specialized anti-servant attacker. Unless I'm forgetting something, the 90+ and very high-end 90++ encounters, where these special buffs matter the most, have you facing off against real servants. The lawful buff is handy though, keep it in mind. For her overcharge, Sei has anti-human attribute damage. Yes, JP friends, it's called the human attribute on this server. Ask yourself this whenever you run Sei against a servant. Are they lawful, and are they human attribute? This is very important because if the answer is none of the above, her raw NP damage is quite bad. Just for reference, looking at basic, supportless, generic CE NP damage, Sei has a lower output as a single target than Arjuna Altar has as an AoE. In practice, it won't be that bad because you could use Scotty's and a Black Grail while you normally try to run Arjuna with a K-Scope, but the point is that because so much of her kit is devoted to crits, she has very little in the tank for her Noble Phantasm. The only other single target berserkers at risk of being eclipsed by an AoE are Salome and Nagayoshi if you raw dog him with no stacks. Those are both low rarity servants, which doesn't put her in great company, so you very much want to pick fights where Sei's special buffs are relevant. With any one of her traits though, you could see her pop up very high in the rankings, putting out raw numbers comparable to Ku Altar. Or if you prefer comparing limes to other limes, not that far below Mysterious Heroine X Altar, which is pretty impressive. We're talking Echan's traitless damage by the way. But if you manage to get an enemy that's both lawful and human attribute, it gets pretty crazy. The chart shows close to double what Atalanta could do. Take into account that Sei has multiplicative buffs with either Scotty, and you'll have a strong if niche beat stick. At Media has saved me the trouble of looking through the combinations myself, and they've compiled a list of servants that hit Sei's double whammy. I see a few notable story bosses on this list. Ivan in Lost Belt 1, Lonling in Lost Belt 3, I guess William Tell in Lost Belt 4. Lonling even makes a return in Paper Moon, so you get to take him for a rodeo twice. That chapter also has Gilles de Rais, but despite looking like his Saber incarnation, this one is treated as chaotic evil, much like his bug-eyed caster form. Now you may have noticed a bunch of other Lost Belt 3 servants on there, but here's the thing. Within that chapter, Liang Yu, Shi Huangdi, and I think Jiang Yu aren't servants, strictly speaking. Now I never personally tested whether they count as servants in terms of gameplay mechanics, but this is a problem because if you look at the fine print on Sei's NP, the lawful component only works against servants, so you may run into trouble on that front. Sei has a few other odds and ends. Her least useful effect is a passive that grants star absorption for quick cards. The thing is, the magnitude is so small that it doesn't do much of anything. Berserkers have such abysmal base absorption that you need 4-digit magnitudes to have a meaningful effect. This single-digit throwaway? Not even a drop in the bucket. A much more useful passive is her 100% charm resistance. Not blanket immunity, but for reference, Verstasan has the same resistance. Unfortunately, if you look back on Sei's double whammy list, her preferred prey doesn't really rely on charms. I see maybe 2 Zerans on there with a charm? Wait, Shahrazad's only works on men. Yeah, I think you're more likely to find a Shadow Servant for that triple whammy. But you know, there should be a lot of single trait or attribute overlaps with the charm department, so at least you can get some mileage there. While we're under the hood, there's one more thing I want to point out. Sei's third skill is an anti-ruler effect, but Berserkers have a nasty drawback in that third slot. The other classes get damaging anti-appends, but Zerks are stuck with crit chance reduction instead, which is a really low value effect. If a Berserker takes 2 or 3 good hits, they're at serious risk of dropping on the spot, even if it's not a crit. So crit chance reduction against a single extra class is pretty bad value. There are 4 rulers on the double whammy list, but still, I'd save the servant coins. The only real reason to level this append is for completionism and bragging rights. On release, Sei is in a bit of an awkward spot. Since her playstyle incentivizes fishing for buster crits, her synergy with Caster Scotty is a bit clunky since her buffs only affect quick cards. And because Sei has a quick NP, she has anti-synergy with buster enablers. That said, you could do something super jank like running her with Koyanskaya just for face card value. And if you see any human attributes along the way, they're dead meat. Thankfully though, Sei is in for 2 big benefits next year. Firstly, we get Mighty Chains. Right now in NA, quick servants generally have bad NP Brave chains because putting a quick card first in your chain isn't all that productive. But ETA Next Anniversary, they change how chains work. One with a quick Arts and Buster card gains the chain starter bonuses of all 3, and the quick bonus itself changes. On top of the old star generation effect, it increases the crit chance of all cards in that chain by 20%, something that's infinitely more useful. Because you get all starter buffs, QAB chains actually become highly effective. This situation benefits Sei tremendously since she has a quick noble Phantasm and a lot of buster cards. Due to her single arts card, you may have trouble assembling a full mighty Brave chain. In this situation, you can choose between doing a normal Brave chain with Sei or including one of your Scotty's arts cards to make it complete. But the point is that this mechanic is going to make your damage much more consistent. The second big benefit is that, during next year's Arctic Summer event, we get Ruler Scotty. Now in the Summer Okita Altar video, I talked about some of the more sinister tricks she enables, but the way I see it, if you're watching a Summer Sei video, is probably because you either want or already have one. So I'll spare you the Species Clause spiel. What's relevant here is that Summer Scotty takes the Buster Quick support idea that was tried with Osakabe Hime, but with the rocket fuel that makes OG Scotty effective. Consistent stars, stars on demand, quick buster and attack buffs, good stuff all around. But one of the most notable differences between Ruler and Caster Scotty is that the latter amplifies quick crit damage. By contrast, Ruler Scotty grants Buster Crit. For a servant with 3 Buster cards like Sei, that's a much better deal. Unlike a lot of other summer servants just left in the lurch, Sei's situation gets a lot better with time. All you have to do is wait a year for Mighty Chains to become a thing, and then keep enough quartz in reserve to grab a copy of Ruler Scotty. I'm not going to claim Sei is an amazing servant, but she's a crit beatstick that can zero out specific enemy types. The anti-lawful, Shadow Servant, and human attribute buffs on a noble Phantasm last for 1 turn. So in situations that call for extreme burst damage, you can initiate a chain with it and follow up with massive crits to just delete your target. Survivability is going to be rough. Ruler Scotty provides 0 protection, so your run's going to live or die on that 2-hit evasion. So maybe keep a reserve attacker in slot 4, just in case. But would I recommend rolling for her? Interesting as Sei is, she's not really headhunt material. We've been in an absolutely stacked year, and I'm guessing a lot of you have depleted quartz reserves between Lost Belt 6 and the Anniversary banner. Maybe you're trying to rebuild for Melusine's December return banner. So I would say that unless you're specifically going after Sei, or more likely Summer Kama, you're good to hold off. But if you do get everyone's favorite midlife crisis servant, she does have some neat uses that you shouldn't underestimate. Thanks for watching. I put up my main account's GSSR polls over on the other channel, so click the link on screen to see what misery I invited upon myself. I'll also be streaming this weekend at twitch.tv/Finotaisen, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I might take a few more cracks at the Summer Melusine banner, so stop on by and hang out. I'll see you there.